Ah!
I live in a quiet suburb just outside Columbus. The kind of place where kids ride their bikes in circles until the streetlights flicker on. Where packages sit untouched on porches for hours. Where nothing ever really happens. I am 32. I work from home for a marketing company. My days are predictable. Coffee at 8:30. Emails until noon. Microwave lunch. Sometimes a short jog around the block. At night, I stream something mindless, and usually fall asleep on the couch before dragging myself upstairs. That is why the blackout did not scare me at first. Storms roll through Ohio all the time. That night, the air felt heavy since the afternoon. Thick and metallic, like the sky was pressing down on the roof. Around 9:17 at night, while I was rinsing a plate in the sink, everything went dark. The refrigerator cut off mid-hum. The house exhaled into silence. At first, I actually smiled. Typical storm problem. Nothing more. I grabbed my phone for the flashlight. No service. Not unusual during bad weather, but still inconvenient. I looked outside through the kitchen window. The entire neighborhood was swallowed in black. No porch lights, no headlights, no distant glow from the highway. It felt deeper than normal darkness, not just the absence of light, but the presence of something thick, something solid, like the world had been covered with a lid. I lit a candle and sat at the dining table, listening to the wind scrape branches against the siding, telling myself this would pass in a few minutes. That is when I heard the first knock. It was soft, not on the front door exactly, more like something brushing against it. A faint, uneven tap. I froze, head tilted, breath held, another tap, slightly lower this time. I told myself it was a branch, even though there is no tree near my porch. Even though I know that, the tapping dragged slowly downward, from the top of the door to the bottom, like fingernails trailing across wood, slow, deliberate, testing. A cold wave moved through my chest. I stood up too fast, my chair legs screeching against the floor. The sound felt too loud, too sharp. Like the house was listening, I walked toward the hallway. Each step careful, candle shaking in my hand, the flame bending sideways, even though there was no breeze. Halfway there, the tapping stopped. I stared at the door, waiting for the handle to rattle, waiting for someone to knock properly. Waiting for a voice. Nothing. Just silence so thick my ears started ringing. Then from upstairs, directly above me, I heard a single footstep. My bedroom is above the hallway. And I live alone. My scalp tightened. My knees felt hollow. I did not want to look up. I did not want to move, but the house creaked again. A slow shift of weight across the ceiling. I whispered to myself that old houses settle, that wood expands and contracts, that there is a reasonable explanation. The next sound was not a creak. It was pacing, slow, measured, back and forth across my bedroom floor. Steady steps, like someone thinking, like someone waiting. The candle slipped from my fingers and hit the tile. Wax splattering, flame dying instantly. Darkness swallowing me whole. Upstairs the pacing stopped, and then something ran. Heavy, frantic footsteps thundered from one end of the room to the other, so hard the ceiling fixture above me rattled. I stumbled backward into the wall, hands outstretched, blind, my throat burning from holding in a scream. The footsteps stopped directly above my head. Dust drifted down. I could smell old insulation, dry and stale. Then I heard a slow, dragging scrape, like something lowering itself onto its hands and knees. Directly above me, I felt the vibration through the beams. A shifting of weight, as if whatever was upstairs was crawling now. Crawling toward the hallway, crawling toward the top of the stairs. The stairs that led down to where I was standing. My phone buzzed violently in my hand, and at that exact second, the power surged back. Lights flaring on, blinding and harsh, the refrigerator roaring to life. The house snapping back to normal in a single brutal moment. I blinked against the brightness. The ceiling was still. No dust, no sound. Notifications flooded my phone. Weather alerts, delayed messages, coworkers joking about the outage. I do not remember deciding to go upstairs. I just remember standing at the top of the steps, staring down the hallway toward my bedroom. The door was open. I never leave it open. Inside, everything looked untouched. The bed made, the window closed, the air still, but the carpet was wrong. From the doorway to the center of the room, the fibers were pressed down in two long parallel trails, as if something heavy had dragged itself across the floor. The indentations curved slightly, stopping a few feet from my bed, right where someone would kneel to watch me sleep. My chest refused to fill with air. I slowly backed out of the room, my eyes locked on those marks. Then I noticed the wall near the ceiling in the hallway, faint smudges, handprints. Too elongated, fingers too long, spaced too far apart, as if something had been crawling upside down. The power has not gone out since that night. The utility company said it was a routine transformer failure, nothing unusual. But every night around 9:17, the lights in my house dimmed just slightly. Not enough to call it a flicker, just enough to notice. And sometimes when I am lying in bed, I feel the mattress dip near my feet, slow, careful, testing my weight. I keep my eyes closed because I know if I look, and the room is dark again, I will not be alone when the lights come back on. I never believed in government conspiracies. I am not that kind of person. I teach history at a community college just outside Des Moines. I rent a small farmhouse 10 minutes from campus, quiet road, cornfields on both sides. The kind of place where the loudest sound at night is usually crickets and distant trucks on the highway. My life is structured, predictable. Lectures in the morning, grading papers in the afternoon. Frozen dinners, late-night documentaries. I like routine. I trust systems. I trust explanations. That trust started cracking the night the county issued the blackout order. It came through the emergency alert system on my phone. A harsh metallic tone that cut through the evening silence. The message was simple. Mandatory power shutdown at exactly 10 o'clock p.m. Remain indoors. Cover all windows. Do not use generators. Do not attempt to travel. Duration unknown. There was no storm. No visible reason. The sky was clear. Stars sharp and bright over the fields. At first, I assumed it was a grid overload precaution. Maybe a test. Maybe maintenance. I even felt mildly impressed, organized, efficient. At 9:59, the lights in my kitchen flickered once. Twice. Then everything went black. The silence that followed felt engineered. Not natural. Not like a storm outage. More like a switch had been flipped somewhere far away by someone watching a panel. I stood in my living room holding my phone. But there was no signal. Not even a single bar. Through the gaps in my blinds, I could see the entire horizon erased. No farmhouse lights in the distance. No blinking towers, no glow from town. Just a flat, endless dark pressing against the windows. That is when I heard the first engine. Low, controlled, moving slowly down the gravel road. I froze, listening. The tires did not crunch the way normal cars do. The sound was heavier, smoother, like reinforced rubber rolling over stone. The engine stopped directly in front of my house. I told myself it was county police checking compliance, making sure everyone followed the order. That explanation sat comfortably in my mind for about 5 seconds. Then a second engine approached, stopping farther down the road. Then a third behind the house, somewhere near the fields. They were positioning themselves. I felt my pulse in my throat, slow at first, then harder. A beam of white light swept across my covered window, not bright enough to shine through fully, but strong enough to outline the edges of the blinds. They were checking for light leakage. I backed away from the window slowly, careful not to disturb anything. My breathing shallow, measured, boot steps crunched outside. Multiple sets, coordinated, not rushed. A metallic click echoed through the night. Like equipment being adjusted, I moved toward the back of the house. Curiosity fighting fear. I know that was stupid. But part of me needed to understand, needed proof that this was ordinary. Through a tiny gap in the kitchen curtain, I looked out toward the cornfield behind my house. At first I saw nothing, just the dark outline of stalks swaying gently. Then the corn began to fold, not from wind, but from movement beneath it, rows parting in a straight line toward my property. Something large was moving through the field, and it was not random, it was directed. I felt a strange pressure build in my ears, like the air itself was tightening. From somewhere beyond the field came a low vibration. Not quite a sound, more like a frequency felt in the bones. The boots outside my house stopped moving. Complete stillness, as if whoever was out there was waiting. The corn stopped swaying. And then I saw it, not clearly, not fully, but enough. A distortion in the dark, taller than the crops. Bending them without touching them, a vertical absence where stars should have been visible. My brain struggled to define it, to assign shape, but every time I tried to focus, my vision blurred, like my eyes were refusing to cooperate. The vibration intensified, my teeth aching, my vision pulsing at the edges, and then every car engine around my house shut off at once. Total silence. The distortion moved closer to the back fence. The wooden posts began to tremble, soil shifting around them. I realized the blackout was not to protect infrastructure, not to prevent panic. It was to remove interference. No light, no electricity, no signals, nothing that could disrupt whatever operation was happening in that field. My phone screen suddenly flickered to life, despite having no service. A single line of text appeared. No sender, no number, just words, remain inside. The back fence snapped, wood splitting sharply. I flinched, stumbling away from the window. The vibration became unbearable. My knees buckled. I dropped to the kitchen floor, palms pressed against the cold tile. Something heavy crossed the yard. I could feel each step through the foundation. Slow, deliberate, approaching the house. The front door handle turned slightly, testing, not forcing. Then every smoke detector in my house began to chirp at once, not the normal battery warning, but a synchronized high-pitched tone that made my skull feel like it would crack. The vibration stopped instantly. The detectors fell silent. Outside, engines restarted in perfect unison. Boots moved quickly, efficiently. Gravel crunching as vehicles pulled away from the property. One by one, within seconds the road was empty again. At exactly 10:32, the power returned. Lights flooding the house as if nothing had happened. My phone regained signal. News alerts popping up about a routine grid stabilization test, thanking residents for cooperation. The next morning I walked to the back fence. It was intact, no broken posts, no disturbed soil, but beyond it, in the cornfield, a wide circular area had been flattened completely. Stalks pressed into the dirt in a perfect smooth pattern. At the center of that circle, the earth was scorched black. No one in town has mentioned it. My students joked about the blackout like it was an inconvenience. The county website lists it as scheduled infrastructure maintenance. I drove past my house tonight after work just to look at it from the road. There are new utility boxes installed along the ditch. Ones I do not remember seeing before. matte black, unmarked. And every night since the blackout, at exactly 10 o'clock p.m., my lights dim for half a second. Just enough to remind me that whatever came through that field, whatever required absolute darkness, knows exactly where I live. I work nights at a 24-hour grocery store in downtown Seattle. The kind of place that smells like burnt coffee and floor cleaner at 3 in the morning. The kind of place where insomniacs and night shift nurses drift through the automatic doors, under fluorescent lights that never turn off. I am not afraid of the dark. I am afraid of people, shoplifters, drunks. The occasional screaming argument in aisle 7, but darkness has never bothered me. Darkness is just the absence of customers. That changed 6 months ago. During what the company later called a rolling grid failure, it was 2:13 a.m. I remember because I was printing waste reports at the customer service desk. The store speakers were playing soft pop music, the refrigeration units humming steadily. 3 customers inside, an elderly man in frozen foods, a college kid comparing energy drinks, and a woman near the bakery staring at nothing in particular. Without warning, the lights went out, not flickered, not dimmed, just off. The music cut mid-lyric. The refrigerators fell silent. Even the glowing red exit signs died, which I later learned should be impossible. For a second, none of us moved. The store felt hollow, like the air had been sucked upward into the ceiling. Then I heard the automatic doors at the entrance slide open. There was no backup generator hum, no emergency lighting, just pitch black and the soft rubber sound of the doors parting. I called out, told everyone to stay calm. Told them it was probably a city outage. My voice sounded small, absorbed by shelves and hanging signs. The elderly man answered from somewhere to my left, his voice shaky but present. The college kid laughed nervously near the coolers. The woman by the bakery did not say anything. I pulled my phone from my pocket. The screen would not turn on. Completely dead, despite having over 50% battery minutes earlier. That is when I heard footsteps that did not belong to any of us. Slow, steady, entering through the open front doors. I strained to listen, counting, 1 set, maybe 2, hard to tell. The sound was wrong somehow. Too evenly spaced, too synchronized. The elderly man asked if someone had just come in. I told him yes, probably another customer caught in the outage. But no one responded to my greeting. The footsteps continued deeper into the store, past produce, past the floral display, moving with purpose. The college kid swore softly and said he saw something near the registers. A shape, tall, blocking the faint street glow from outside. I could see that faint glow too, barely outlining the front windows. And against it, there were silhouettes, more than one, standing perfectly still just inside the entrance. They were not moving like confused customers, not reaching for phones, not speaking, just standing. I felt a tightness in my stomach, a sensation like being evaluated. The woman near the bakery finally spoke. Her voice distant, almost calm. She said they are early tonight. I asked her what she meant, but she did not answer again. The silhouettes began to separate, each one turning down a different aisle, their movements smooth, mechanical. As they passed the end caps, I noticed something that made my throat close. They were all the same height, the same build, identical outlines. The elderly man started walking toward the front, maybe thinking help had arrived, maybe confused. I tried to tell him to stop, but my voice would not rise above a whisper. One of the silhouettes shifted direction abruptly, intercepting him in the dark. There was no scream, no struggle, just a sudden absence of his shuffling footsteps. The silence after that was worse than any noise. I backed away from the service desk slowly, my hand brushing against candy displays. Knocking something to the floor, the sound echoed unnaturally loud. From different aisles, I began to hear carts rolling, but not pushed by customers, moving on their own. Wheels turning steadily across tile. Price scanners beeped randomly in the darkness, one after another, as if items were being checked out somewhere unseen. The woman by the bakery started humming softly, the same tune that had been playing over the speakers before the outage, perfectly on pitch, perfectly timed. A silhouette emerged at the end of my aisle, closer now, close enough that I could see there was no variation in its outline. No sway of arms, no tilt of head, just a human shape filled with deeper black. It stopped about 10 feet away from me. I felt an intense pressure in my chest, like gravity had increased only around my body, my knees trembling. Then I heard my own voice from somewhere behind me, calm and professional, saying, "Welcome to Market Square. How can I help you tonight?" I spun around, but there was nothing there, only shelves of gum and batteries. When I turned back, the silhouette was closer, close enough that the faint street glow outlined the edge of what should have been a face. There were no features, no eyes, no mouth, just a smooth absence. In that moment, I understood something I cannot logically explain. The blackout was not a failure. It was an opening. The store without light, without power, without identity, became something else, a template, a place where roles could be reassigned. The silhouette tilted slightly, and I felt a violent pulling sensation in my skull. Like memories were being extracted, images flashed in my mind. Scanning barcodes, stocking shelves, greeting customers, over and over. Then everything snapped back. The lights roared on, refrigerators humming, music resuming mid-song. I was standing behind the register, hands resting on the counter as if I had never moved. The college kid was gone. The elderly man was gone. The woman by the bakery was gone. Security footage later showed them all leaving the store calmly at 2:14 a.m., walking out together before the outage even began. Management said the blackout lasted exactly 47 seconds. I know that is not true, because sometimes during my shift, the lights dim slightly, just for a breath, and in the reflection of the freezer doors, I do not see my own face clearly. I see a smooth, dark outline standing behind the counter, perfectly still, waiting for the doors to open again.